Alrighty, well, we are back for part 2 of my interview with church leader in Nigeria. We have spoken so many times on this over the years, and I always have such a deep burden for Nigeria. We covered a lot of ground. Very helpful. Thank you so much in the previous interview. So today we're going to try to go into a few more areas and try to sum it up and try to look forward and say where are things going. And one thing I didn't lay out, and no one knows the real numbers, but just to get people the scale of this thing, how many farmers have been pushed off their lands? How many Christian farmers? What's the number that's thrown about?
It's a huge number, and we're looking at. In fact, it was put out on the public media recently, though they didn't categorize whether it was Christians or Muslims.
Yeah.
But we know that the majority out of that number would be Christians. And they said during the tenure of the immediate past presidents, not less than 63,000 Nigerians were killed. Not less than 63,000.
Yeah, because I've been using
in the past eight years.
And
okay?
I said over the last 20, and these numbers are higher than some are comfortable with, because some people want a court of law stamp on the number, which you can't get. These are killings out in the bush. But I've always said it's 70 to 100,000 at least over the last 20 years. Is that, first of all,
yes,
is that? Yeah.
It's possible, because if the media could put out, and I haven't seen anyone controvert that, I haven't seen anyone say that's not true, that during the 8-year tenure of the immediate past president, you had not less than 63,000 kills.
That's right. And this is going on for 20 years. That's just 8 years.
Yeah. So the 8 years. Okay. So how about 12 years?
Yes.
12 years out of 20. Well, it's even like 15 years, because we're in 2023 now.
Yes.
And there have been some killings just between March and today.
Okay.
In Nigeria. Hundreds have been killed in the middle belt.
Okay. And how many farmers, how many millions of farmers would you say have been pushed off, have had their lands taken?
It's nothing less than 1 million, because if we try to put the count, all right. Again, you just think about the expanse of the states that have suffered these attacks and the communities that have been suffered. So it won't be less than 1 million. Yeah, farmers that have been impacted, by the attack of the Islamic extremists. Whether you call them Boko Haram, or you call them Fulani militants, or you call them bandits, because these are all Islamic.
They're all armed Islamic attackers. Yes. It doesn't matter what the label is. It's all the same beast. It's different flavors. They have some different strategies. It's all the same end game.
And in any case, their modus operandi, their pattern of operation is the same.
Yeah.
It's just the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they don't have a relationship, how come they are implementing the same modus operandi?
Yeah. Well, and thanks for the clarification on the numbers. And I feel better, because we even, of course, there's even internal conflict on what number to use. And I've just gone on the numbers I'm hearing and watching the flow over 2 decades. So that's where I'm like, I know it's got to be at least 70,000 and 100,000 more. So when you say, hey, look, 63,000 in just 8 years, and then the farmers, I've heard much higher numbers. But again, none of these statistics are perfect, but very helpful. So we've got 70, 100,000, maybe more deaths.
Yeah.
Millions of farmers. We don't know. The numbers range from 1 to 3 from what I've heard, but it's a massive number. It's just incredible. But it's a massive land grab, and it's coming from different players, but forget about their names or labels. It's all armed Islamists. So we go back to what we talked about last time. So, the word spoken in Washington from the Nigerian regime or successive regimes is, my gosh, this is so hard, and it's a very complicated problem. And oh my gosh, because you've got herders and farmers, and it's out in the bush. We're doing our best, blah, but we're overwhelmed. Nothing ever changes. And I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to tell you what I've heard over the years. And I want you to push back on this or fill in any detail if you think I'm on the right track. But I've always said, what is going on? Because, the latest president was elected by saying largely, I'm going to bring order, right? And Buhari was elected by saying, I'm going to bring order. And he's a Fulani himself. And his government was all Fulani, did not share power.
And a retired military general.
Yes, very good. So if anybody can do it, he can do it.
Yeah.
And retired Army general, he really knows the military apparatus. So it's anyways. And so Jonathan Goodluck before him, I'm going to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't
But it
matter.
turned out to be the worst.
He turned out to be the worst, which there might be a reason for that. And we can get into that because some of that. But anyways, it doesn't matter what regime is in and who's saying, first of all, they're all saying the same things to Washington and then saying, I'm the savior, elect me and I'm going to fix the problem. And then look what happens. So, and I always say in English, there's a phrase that says the fix is in. There's a hidden thing that is continuing this thing and is allowing it to go on. So everyone talks on the surface, the politicians manipulate the masses and just give me power and I'll solve the problem. Now, the fix that I've always heard is like, look, you go back to when the Brits ruled in Nigeria and they heavily relied on the Muslims and the Fulanis. The Fulanis were always the smartest guys in the room and they heavily relied on them. And so when power left, since the Brits have left, all the security apparatus, anything from the police to the military to the intelligence agencies are all controlled by Muslims. It doesn't matter who's sitting at the top, whether they have a motivation to change or not, nothing happens.
And in spite of the outcry of Nigerians, especially Christians, and some well-meaning Muslims, nothing changed. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. So that's part of what made a lot of Nigerians feel so terribly disappointed with the outgone president and felt that he abetted the attacks.
He's part of the problem.
Also because he's Fulani himself, he didn't want to, in quote, hurt his people, but that was at the expense of other peace-loving Nigerians who were living in their territory peacefully until these aggressors came upon them and destroyed them and displaced them. All right. Now the truth is that it went beyond a local farmer-herder clash. It became militancy. It became war, like implementing war. Because every time, and this has happened again and again and again, every time Fulani militants attack a community, they gather in their numbers. The local people know how many Fulanis are settlers within their area. But every time, including very recently, very recently, in some of our communities that have been, like in one local council area, unfortunately, the local council that the current governor of Plateau State comes from was recently massively attacked. Not less than 10 villages were attacked, And the villagers, the eyewitnesses, those who escaped, all right, and ran away, said that the attackers came in their hundreds.
Gosh.
In their hundreds.
And is the phrase foreign fighters part of the discussion, by the way?
Well, I mean, if the government doesn't accept that, definitely the local people know, and they say there are hired mercenaries,
yes,
that were part of implementing these attacks.
These are not people
because
from the region.
Armed, okay, they were not people from the region, but of course they were the people within the region, the Fulanis in the region, were the informants, right? The abettors. They were the ones that invited them or hired them, all right, to come and help them implement this ethnic cleansing and land grabbing strategy. Because if you attack the villages, you sack them, you drive them away, you move around freely, and that's what is happening. The herdsmen are moving around with their cattle in the areas where their hired mercenaries have attacked, burnt down the villages, and chased the natives away.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, does that show that there is sympathy to the cause of the natives? It simply means, oh yeah, so we've sent these people away. Now our cattle can graze freely in these areas.
There you go. Yeah. And I thought what you said about Buhari was too charitable. And this is, of course, look, I'm an outsider, but the way you portrayed him was that he failed to be aggressive because of his concern for his own people. And I always say, no, he was, and you said this too, to be fair, he's aiding and abetting. The Fulanis, I mean, this is part of a strategy. They're fully aware of what's going on. And it's not this is happening, and I just don't want to hurt my people by attacking. It's aided and abetted by Buhari, but that's my point of view.
There were times he made public statements. For instance, when attacks were so pervasive in Benue State, for instance, part of his statement to the governor was, "You go learn to live in peace with your people."
Oh my gosh. Criminal. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it just simply portrayed the governor and the natives of Benue as not being accommodative.
It's a local conflict. Enough, yes, you know? You're not being accommodative. You are part of the problem. It's tit for tat. It's a sectarian conflict. It's local. Yeah. That's always the messaging that's going on and comes back in Washington.
Yeah, so there was no outright reprimand of the aggressors.
Yeah, where's the attacks? Yeah.
There was no outright reprimand on the aggressors. Several times the natives, the locals have raised the question that whenever attacks happened, there is this Fulani, they call it socio-cultural organization, okay, called Mieti Allah. They would come out to make public statements that the attacks happened because the social number of their cattle were missing, or the local people killed a number of their cattle.
Yeah.
And so the reason for the attackers. So this means the organization that was abetting or also serving as a cover to these militants is a non-organization. There was never a time this organization was called to order by the charged to court for abetting violent attacks on communities. As doing unlawful acts. Because if it's an act of theft, all right, of cattle, all right, do you pursue the due process?
Military.
Yes. So because those kind of acts were abetted and they continued here and there and there, the communities, of course, felt that they were becoming like endangered species and they were being extinct.
Yes.
and it was like genocide that was happening.
Yes.
So it was more like, well, we have to push back. Unfortunately, they didn't have the capacity that the attackers had in terms of being well armed, because we've had a situation where these attackers have also confronted the security.
Yes, but
But you know what?
if the federal army comes in force with helicopters and gunship, there's no contest. If there is a will, yes, it's all a joke. It's all embarrassing.
That is why the communities have always felt there was no will from the federal government.
It goes back. Yes, it goes back to our former argument and thesis hypothesis. So, and here's a way I like to tell it in America. So imagine for 20 years, there's one armed group, or maybe it's three, but they all kind of have the same methodology, and it's a guerrilla group, and they've killed 500,000 people, and they've stolen farmland from 5 million farmers. And this has happened after 20 years, all internal guerrilla fight. So who is going to accept the argument in our country that it's like, my gosh, it's complicated. We don't know how to solve this. We're trying. Oh my gosh, any politician should be thrown out, and they're all corrupt. And again, the fix is in. It's too obvious. It's gone on too long. And so I think we've established that, but it's just maddening. And it's like, anybody in Washington, please wake up. And Washington is waking up. They are waking up. They're starting to see and put two and two together. So, but if you're in the State Department or the Hill, this is a message to you. Please wake up and spread the word. And everybody else, spread the word. Spread this content around. The only way we end this is for everyone to wake up and understand what's going on, and to name and shame the politicians, and especially the Nigerian politicians. Say, no more. So I want to talk about a positive thing that's been happening. We've been talking about, so when I would interview, let's say, governors of the Middle Belt, that were really getting hit hard, for a number of years, there was always this desire, we need to form our own state security forces. But there was some conflict there with the Constitution. But recently that's changed and that's opened up. So now some of the southern states are forming their own security forces. Is this correct?
Oh, yeah, it's correct. In fact, it was aggressively pursued by the states in the Southwest. Okay? The states in the Southwest, because they also suffered attacks by Fulani militant groups. You know, they attacked their communities, then they inhabited that they were men by the day kidnapping, and they were raping their women. You know, they kidnap for ransom, they bargain and release. Sometimes after they bargain, they get the ransom, they kill the victims, and it was increasing.
Yeah.
So the people in the Southwest, their outcry compelled their governors across party lines to now get together and get their legislature to legislate on the need to strengthen security in the security outfit that they call Amotekun. Amotekun, I don't remember exactly what that means, but it's like, you know, the face of a strong, you know, protector.
Yeah.
A territorial protector, maybe like the lion or so, you know, and that will protect its territory, kind of. So they legislated on that, and the various states in the Southwest established that security outfit. All right, so it's now up. I think it's about like 2 years ago. So it's up for incoming governors to further strengthen that, because they realized that the federal government was no longer forthcoming on being committed to providing security.
Too many promises. It's all just talk, not action.
Absolutely. So they better reduce the thing to an outfit within the states that will be answerable to the state governor and the state legislature. So that has been done. Then we even find that in the northern states, because the extremists now expanded their attacks, especially the kidnappers, to kidnap prominent Muslim families, wealthy families.
There you go.
Yeah, so that they can make more money. All right. So it became like a threat to the elites or the allies.
Then we get action. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and by the way, let me make a quick note here for the audience. So typically, with armed terror groups like this, a lot of times they will start with outside funding. And, with these types of groups, it's typically starting with the Gulf states, the Middle East, and the Saudis. So a lot of money flows down. But then over time, it's like we have to set up our own business. And a lot of times it goes to kidnapping. And they'll go to kidnapping and they can bring in a heck of a lot of money through that. The only problem is they're starting to bite the hand that feeds them. So they need money to fuel the fight. But when they start attacking Muslims for it, then the political will starts to shift. So let me end with this. I like to motivate people to say, my gosh, you think about some of the conflicts we've had over the years and what happens with refugees, et cetera. And if Nigeria, just pull back and look what's happened in Nigeria, massive numbers of Christians killed and pushed out of the north, down into the middle, massive numbers, a massive depopulation effort. It's a war, as you said, and massive numbers of deaths. And again, depopulation, Christians being pushed down in the south. Now the attacks are happening in the south. So look, if this is not ended, it's you have massive numbers of young men that are unemployed and very angry. So in any country, what happens? That's a natural tinderbox for civil war, especially in a country like Nigeria where it's so evenly divided. So if we don't get this right, if the West has no political will and we don't come behind this, it to me seems like we're going to end with a civil war in Nigeria, and it would lead to an outpouring of blood that is unprecedented in Africa, and a refugee problem that dwarfs every other one we've seen. Talk to me about that. Do you think I have it right or wrong?
Absolutely, absolutely. The big problem would be if Nigeria is massively displaced. Then it's going to be chaotic in the African sub-region. Very, very chaotic. Remember, Nigeria has a population million. Okay?
So, say it again. You were cut off. Nigeria is a population
of about 200 million.
Yeah.
Okay? So even if you have just like 50 million displaced, to go find refuge outside the country. It's going to ruin those other countries. They can't cope. They can't cope.
No.
And the problem even is this militancy, this Islamic militancy is now also growing in the Sahel. All right? In the Sahel areas. Niger is now beginning to feel the terrible heat of it. Burkina Faso, okay, yes, and Mali. So imagine having Africa so producing huge number of refugees. The West is not going to cope. And remember, when it comes to refugee situation, you can't tell who are the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah. Because
the bad guys may want to also ride on that trail and get into your country.
Yes.
So it's a problem that the West must be concerned.
Absolutely.
About, must be concerned about.
Thank you for that summary again.
Do something about it.
Yeah.
And very seriously too.
Thank you. Sorry for stepping on you there.
No problem.
Listen, my friend, thank you so much for the time. I so have enjoyed working together with you over the years, and I am with you all. And again, to the audience, please spread this around. We have to wake people up it's the only thing that ends it until we can all understand what's actually going on, and we can effectively fight it once we understand it. So spread the word. God bless you. Bless all the people of Nigeria.
Thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity. Keep on the good work, and God bless you and support you and uphold you in all the great work you do.
Thank you, my friend. God bless.